this is for the overhead. You're going to see the step back. Now very often I've included a little bit of footwork now, so I'm going to pivot. Now if you look carefully, I turned sideways and I did a grip change. So let's go back a bit. This is a very important step here, because as I step back with my right foot, I tilt the racket and there is a grip change. So I turn from my forehand grip to my continental grip, which is similar to the serve. So I'm stepping back. At the same time, I tilt the racket 45 degrees. I make sure my elbows drop and I keep the grip change. So this, you'll notice that now I have a continental grip here. I turn a little bit of my shoulders to my opponents and I'm waiting for the ball. Now the next thing you'll notice now is that there's going to be a small crossover step. Watch carefully. There's going to be a small crossover step, because very often when somebody's trying to lob you, you really have to move back first to get behind the ball. So you see the left foot crossing over in front of the right foot. See how that worked out? And so you're waiting for the ball, and then at the last minute you point with the left arm, which normally you point to the contact point. Then when that happens, you start brushing your hair, or otherwise known as cobra. So the wrist starts doing the cobra. Then you'll notice that my knuckles of my hand goes to my ear. So we'll call that answer the phone, but it's not one of the modern cell phones. We're talking about the old telephone. It's almost like knuckles to the ear, as if you lightly punching yourself in the ear. Not that you would punch yourself, but just the knuckles going to your ear. Eyes looking at contact point. Now it's still going up to contact. So you'll notice now that it goes up to contact, and you'll notice that there's an X up there. One of the reasons why we have this X up here is to make sure that the arm breaks and then the wrist stays here, and then the racket pivots going over the wrist. So to make sure that all the momentum stops in the right arm and the racket accelerates through. So we're going to let the racket head come through. Now this is the X, and then we're going to go through. Now this next pivot that you're seeing right now is called the wristwatch, where you've got to imagine you've got a wristwatch in the back of your hand, and you want to show your opponent the wristwatch. Let me see if we can find that in another view for you in front. I think we've got it a little bit in front for you. Let me see if I can find it for you. So it goes to the ear. Do you see how my palm is down? And then there is the X. Look how the wrist is pivoting now. Look how the left arm is up here. Look how my head is still looking up. This is where I make contact, and you'll notice that my shoulders are still facing 45 to the side. That really helps with the continental grip. Now as I make contact, this is where I make contact, I want you to see the wristwatch. Now imagine there's a wristwatch in the back of my hand. There is the wristwatch. You see the wristwatch? That's what I call the wristwatch, which pivots, pronates all the way to the edge. And then the last movement is we call sheathe the sword, where we let the racket drop down to the hip. And at the same time, have you noticed that the eyes are looking up to the sky? Now I pivot to the side, step back, almost getting ready for an overhead. Notice that my finger is on the strings here, because that increases my racket head awareness, because I know where my racket head is. Now very often, this is an added one, I step back with a crossover step, because that's how we move when running back for an overhead. Then the first thing we do is we point, brush the hair onto the phone, X, wristwatch, and then hip. And now we're going to...
The old guy versus the young guy. Ooh, looking good. Body's at a 45-degree angle. Right arm over the left arm. Ooh, looking good. You got to swing up on that overhead, and he did just that. Here we go. Crossover steps. And again. That was so good, guys. We got to do it one more time. Switch. Everybody say, I love tennis. Say it loud. And again, shadow swinging. That's it. Rule number 1, do just the opposite of what you want to do. Rule number 2 is a one-time rule. Go ahead and switch. Rule number 3 is you got to be different. You're going to shadow swing. Watch Steve, Maddie, Plur back there. They're in that smooth position. They comb their hair. Everybody say palm down. Oh, our audience is fading. Our audience is fading.